and welcome to the Leading with Lean podcast. My name's Philip Holt, author of Leading with Lean, The Simplicity of Lean, and Leading Lean by Living Lean. And in this podcast, I narrate all three of my books, chapter by chapter, in which I share with you my over 30 years of experience as a lean leader across many companies globally. Leading with Lean, chapter 16, Making the Business Excellence Team Excellent. Recruiting the right people. The lean enterprise needs coaches who know what excellence looks like. The challenge is finding those people who are willing to step away from the operational activity to coach and teach others in business excellence. And what often happens is that those less able to perform in the operational arena are placed in a business excellence role, or that certain people make it a career in itself without ever having spent significant time in an operational role. However, with perhaps a few notable exceptions, an approach to resourcing a team to support the lean transformation that in the main relies on team members without significant operational experience and high performance will be doomed to failure. It is therefore imperative that the lean leader identifies and recruits those people in the organisation who are the most desirable candidates for the operational roles, and that the organisation supports this. In essence, the philosophy behind this approach is that an excellent performer with significant experience can have a multiplier effect on the business beyond that which they could have in an operational role. This approach to recruitment is difficult and is a challenge to the normal sensibilities of the organisation, which will struggle with the usual difficulties of finding talent for their operational roles. To then ask a manager to sacrifice one of their best performers to the lean team is counterintuitive to normal human behaviour, and must be managed by the senior leadership in terms of making the decision non-negotiable, but at the same time rewarding the manager losing the person with something of value, such as first refusal on the next talent. Another barrier to this recruitment approach is that the potential candidates will not see the benefit of stepping out of their well-defined career paths and into the unknown. This is a natural reaction and completely understandable, but it's essential that the barrier is removed, and this requires that the leadership commit to and follow through on fast-track promotions for those people who take on these roles and perform. This will normally require their commitment for a 3-year assignment, but in return, they will move into a role, pending performance, that is at least one grade above their current level, and with a well-defined career path for further development. By doing this, the organisation balances out the risk-reward equation of stepping outside of the standard career path for a team member. The investment by an organisation's leadership in the talent that it places in the lean transformation roles is a critical success factor in terms of both the message that it sends to the rest of the organisation and the high impact created by that talent that it places in these positions. Enabler equals accountable. To be successful, the business excellence team must be enablers of business excellence in the organisation and must not take the short-term approach of doing the work for the team members. This is the difference described in the metaphor between giving someone a fish for the day or teaching them to fish. The business excellence team member, let's say a lean champion, must metaphorically teach them to fish. However, this does not mean that the lean champion is not responsible for the business results and can excuse their own performance by saying that they did everything that they could. Ultimately, if the pupil hasn't learned, then the teacher hasn't taught. And so if the business didn't reach its targets, then the lean champion must take responsibility for that underperformance. What this means is that the lean champion must ensure that they are fully aligned to the why and what of the organisation and their challenges, coaching and training of the team members, and their leadership must be based upon the how, which should and must deliver better results than the traditional approach. This will require the full support of the business excellence leader, lean master, who will need to ensure that the approach being prosecuted by their team members is supported by the leadership and therefore tenable. The business excellence leader will also have the obligation to ensure that the team's objectives are fully aligned with those of the teams that they are entrusted with supporting. Hi, Philip here. Sorry to interrupt the narration of this particular chapter, but I just wanted to remind you that all of my personal profits from the books go to charity. So if you would like to buy a book, it would really be helpful. Otherwise, if you feel that the podcast is sufficient, then please feel free to make a donation to my current charity, which is Women's Aid. It's a great charity which helps to stop domestic violence for women and children. Thank you. The intelligent know. Saying no is generally considered to be negative, and of course, by definition, it is. Therefore, saying no is hard to do, and most people find it particularly difficult as they develop a reputation for success or are identified within the organisation as someone who gets things done. Whatever the reason, the demand for their services will inevitably begin to outstrip their ability to meet it, and they will therefore face the dilemma of having more demand than capacity. At this point, they have two choices. Number one, overpromise compared with what can be delivered. Number two, say no to the request. Unfortunately, the majority of people tend to favour choice one for a number of reasons, but primarily due to two root causes. Firstly, the social and hierarchical pressure not to say no, and secondly, due to the common underestimation of the amount of work involved in their current workload, and hence a false belief of having free capacity. The result of this is that they often fail to deliver what they have committed to on time or to the right level of quality, with a number of consequences, including overload for themselves and their colleagues, damaged reputation, and strained relationships. A theme in this book has been the leadership's responsibility to prioritise and the techniques to manage priorities and capacity. Whilst it's incumbent upon the leadership to become better at prioritisation and remaining focused, it is critical that all employees become adept at understanding their priorities, true capacity, and most importantly, saying no. However, there is a distinct difference between saying a stark no and in responding with what I refer to as the intelligent no, with the fundamental difference being that in the case of the former, the conversation is closed and the requester is dissatisfied with the response, whereas in the latter case, if done well, the requester understands the reason for the no and is happy with the alternative offered. To illustrate, when beginning a lean transformation in an organisation, the business excellence team will inevitably start on a small scale and will, hopefully, experience success. This success will elicit requests from other parts of the organisation, and the natural response is to attempt to meet all of the requests. However, if that approach is taken, it is inevitable that the team will fail in some areas, as the demand will simply outstrip their capacity to meet it. As an alternative, if the team applies the mindset of the intelligent no, they will have determined the scope and objectives of lean deployment, and the lean leader will have agreed this with the organisation's leadership. These priority areas, let's call them the model lines, will be where the team is expected to focus its efforts. A certain amount of support for all areas of the business will be provided in terms of basic lean foundational training, daily management and problem solving, but the bulk of the capacity will be dedicated to the model lines. The business excellence team are therefore empowered to say no to other requests, quoting the committed scope of the lean transformation, and can have an open and honest dialogue with the requesters, preferably providing them with some advice on how to better utilise the available support, or managing their expectations. This apparent lack of support may appear counterintuitive, but will be one of the key enablers of success, ensuring that the business excellence resources are focused on their goals and have sufficient capacity to meet them. Whilst the example was about a business excellence team, it could equally have been about a new product development team, marketing group, project team, or manufacturing cell. Fundamentally, it's about understanding what the priorities are, resourcing those priorities appropriately, and then staying focused on delivering on commitments without distraction. This is what operationally excellent, world-class organisations do every day, and the business excellence team must model and drive this behaviour, utilising Holt and daily management as the key tools of focus. This does not mean that the teams aren't challenged to do more. They must, of course, get better and reduce the waste in their processes to improve their capacity and performance. They should also not be allowed to sandbag capacity. And so the intelligent no doesn't mean that teams are without stretch objectives or high performance targets. The intelligent no is a call to action for leaders to clearly identify their expectations for their team members through solid Holt and daily management. Crucially, employees must also ensure that they are accountable for delivery by clearly and honestly utilising an intelligent no to ensure high performance through refusal. Healthy reporting line tension and a small central team. While the business excellence team must be jointly responsible for the results of the business, the reporting lines of its team members must be independent of the business until the top level. This will ensure that the business excellence team members are able to focus on the how as they see it without being overly influenced by the business leadership. This natural tension between the business and the business excellence team is essential to ensure that the longer-term transformational goals are not subjugated by the short-term drivers of the business. At the same time, the business excellence team must not be distinct from the business or perceived as such, so the team must be embedded in the business on an operational basis. Only a small central team should be in place, responsible for setting the standards for the lean transformation and business excellence and acting as a centre of excellence. An effective approach to this is dependent upon the size of the organisation, but the rule of 10 is a good general approach whereby we would expect that for every 10 people in the organisation, we would have one of the operational team members certified at the Lean Advanced or Six Sigma Greenbelt level and able to support their fellow team members. At this level, they would be operational and only an associate member of the business excellence team and would report within the operational team structure. However, for every 10 Lean Advanced Greenbelt certified team members, i.e. every 100 people, we would have a Lean Expert / Black Belt certified business excellence team member who would be fully dedicated to business excellence and reporting through to the business excellence lead. Further, we would have one Lean Master or Master Black Belt for every 10 Lean Experts, and therefore, in an organisation of 10,000 people, we would expect to have around 110 people, or just over 1% of the population, dedicated to business excellence. These people would have a direct reporting structure within the business excellence team, but share their business objectives of the groups that they support. So in the book, what you would see is the lean certification levels and ratios, which is a triangle which shows at the bottom everyone certified at the foundation level, so 100% of employees, 10% at advanced, 1% at expert, and 0.1% at the master level. The Centre of Excellence. It is tempting to staff the Centre of Excellence with career HQ staff, but as discussed earlier in this chapter, it's essential that the staff are actually experienced and high-performing team members. They should be focused on delivering results through a multiplier effect and therefore should understand extremely well how the business works and how things operate at the shop floor level. The Centre of Excellence, which I cover in chapter 14, must be a practically based organisation and, even in a business of 50,000 employees, would not number more than a handful of people. Their tasks are to, firstly, develop and maintain the lean transformation model, for example, the viral model that I have covered in this book. Secondly, set the standards for the core activities of Hoshinkanri, daily management and problem solving. Thirdly, undertake Kamishibai on the business and the business excellence team processes throughout the organisation. Fourthly, undertake Kaikaku visits and adopt best practices as applicable. Fifthly, lead the overall change and communication activities for the organisation. And then finally, lead the best practice sharing and replication across the enterprise. The staff in the Centre of Excellence should be recognised as thought leaders within the organisation and would, as the lean transformation progresses, become recognised externally as thought leaders. This, of course, brings with it a retention risk, but also helps to develop the reputation of the organisation and acts as a support for the recruitment of external candidates. The profile of the Centre of Excellence staff will not be easy to fulfil, as it will require a mix of seasoned professional, risk taker, explorer and continuous learners, whilst also being highly motivated. There will be few and far between and, for multi-location organisations, rather than attempt to bring them all to the HQ location, a virtual team should be supported. In the case of multi-location organisations, it is preferable to have this team located geographically in line with the major locations of the business. The Business Excellence Competition. In Chapter 13, I discussed the important role of the Business Excellence Competition to the lean transformation and gave the example of the Philips Excellence Competition, the way in which this drives the celebration and hence motivation of our teams to continuously improve and how it contributes significantly to the replication of improvement ideas across the organisation. I cannot emphasise enough the importance of the Business Excellence Competition in achieving excellence. The role that it plays in coalescing the global lean transformation activities is essential, and the focus that it provides is complementary to the efforts of the business excellence resources across the enterprise. However, whilst the Philips Excellence Competition might be a large-scale corporate initiative, its essence and philosophy is applicable no matter what the size of the organisation or constituent part might be, And the Lean Leader and Business Excellence organisation must ensure investment in this central aspect of business excellence.